Okay, we're starting to record it. So I want to welcome everyone to the Space Torah premiere. This is a very, very special night for many of us here, a very special moment. We waited for this for a very, very long time. And for some of you, that part of the journey of Jeff, so even maybe more time than what we did. I also am very thankful that we're actually sharing it only a few days before the Jewish New Year. We're going to celebrate the New Year on Friday. I know that many of us are busy getting ready for the holiday, but I hope that you will be able to carry this evening and this story, this inspiring story with you to the new year, taking with us some new inspiration for a better year, healthy year, less complex year than the one that we are leaving behind us. There's also many good things that happened this year, and one of them is actually the finishing of this film. I want to share with you, before we start the evening, just the plan for the evening so you know what to expect. Right now at 7, we are starting with welcome. So I'm Rachel Raz. I'm the executive producer of Space Torah. Following me, Jeff will share also some thoughts, and following Jeff, Rob Cooper, our director and writer, of whom without him, we won't have this movie the way it is. At 7:20, we are going to put a link into the chat box. This is a link to a Vimeo site that you will be able to see the movie on a different window on your computer. You can still keep your Zoom open, but you will be able to see the film at that link. The film is 25 minutes. Then we're going to get together again for some appreciation and reflection. You will be able to write in the chat what you think about the movie, what thoughts came to your mind. If you like to share a few words, this will be a great opportunity. At 8:05, we're going to have 2 or maybe 3 of the Rabbi that's part of the journey of the Space Torah. I hope that Rabbi Arnold Stiebel will be able to stay with us, and also Rabbi Shaul Osadchey and Rabbi Gideon Estes. At 8:20, Rob will introduce some of our production team that without them, we wouldn't have the film that we have. We will allow some time for Q&A, and then Jeff and I will close the evening. But you are always welcome to write questions, comment in the chat box, and we will be able also to communicate with you after that, following the film. So if you have any question, you want more information, please write it in the chat box and we'll be able to reach back to you. So I want to start, because this is a very, very special evening. I wanted to start, and Andrea, please make sure that I'm on the spotlight so people can see me.
Rachel, you need to stop screen sharing in order to do that.
Okay. So are we all set now? Okay. Excellent. So I want to start with a very special picture that recently Rabbi Arnold Stiebel, that he was the first rabbi that Jeff was in, that was part of the journey of Jeff when he became an astronaut. He sent with Jeff a special prayer. It says an astronaut prayer for Jeffrey Hoffman that he sent with him on his first flight in 1985. And this was the Shehecheyanu prayer. And I think that it's very important, very appropriate for us to also start this evening with the Shehecheyanu and using the same prayer that Jeff took with him on the first flight. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam Shehecheyanu v'kimanu v'higianu lazman hazeh. Praised are you, O Lord, our God, ruler of the universe, who has kept us in life, sustain us, and enable us to reach this very special time. And this
Amen.
is Amen.
Amen.
And this is indeed a very special time. It took about 4.5 years to get to this point, to make the film. I first met Jeff in January in 2016. He came to give a talk at Hebrew College, and a colleague of mine said to me that a Jewish astronaut is coming to talk. This was Harvey. And I said, well, a Jewish astronaut is coming to talk, and I wanted to come and hear the lecture. And I sat in that lecture without really knowing much about Jeff or about his journey, and I was just very curious. And I was sitting there the entire time, mind-blowing. It was the story that he told us. First of all, that he went on 5 space missions, he fixed the Hubble telescope, and then he started sharing that his first flight was during Passover, Pesach, his third flight was during Hanukkah, he took mezuzot and other things. And then in the last flight, he took with him a Torah scroll, and he shared with us a beautiful video, like a home kind video of several minutes from that flight in 1996. And the entire time I was sitting there at this lecture, I was thinking, like my brain was racing. Like one of the things that I said to myself, like, I need to share this story with more people. How come I don't know about this amazing, inspiring story? Positive story, great story. And immediately I was thinking who I'm going to share it with and how important it is to share it. The second thing, when I watched the original footage from space, I saw it was a beautiful footage that Jeff was explaining why he took the Torah, what he's doing, how he's reading it, and the significant moment. And the entire time I said, I want to use this footage so I can share it with educators. I want to share it with parents, with rabbis, with leaders, with children. And this is what I was thinking the entire time when I was sitting at that lecture. So when the lecture finished, I reached out to Jeff and I said to him, where can I find this material? Where can I find this video? Because I want to use it in my teaching. And he said to me, it's not available anywhere. And I said to him, what do you mean? And he said, yes, because I was busy and it's on my computer. And I'm very glad that I was a little bit ahead of chutzpah or the Israeliness in me, or leave him alone. And I said to Jeff, are you open to make a documentary film about it? And for those of you that know me, I never made a documentary film in my life. I don't know anything about it. I only watched documentary film and I can appreciate them. But I knew that this story, with the footage that I just saw there at that lecture at Hebrew College, this is something that we must, it must be a film. It must be a documentary film. And he said to me, if it's done professionally, so yes. So I gave him my card, he gave me his card, and I left and to do my homework and start asking, how do you make a documentary film, and maybe who want to do it? And I started asking around. So I first of all want to thank Jeff that trusted me. You said that you want to do it professionally, and I took it very seriously, but I really want to thank you, Jeff, for trusting me, through this process. And I went home and I asked people, and on this call we have with us Esther and Ken Hausman, that connected me later on to Rob Cooper, that he is our wonderful, wonderful director that I'm very fortunate to work with him for the past few years from Verisma Production. And through this journey, I met many wonderful people, and many of them are here with us. Rabbi Shaul Osadchey, that was very instrumental in this journey. Rabbi Arnold Stiebel, from the first flight and the beginning of the Jewish journey in Houston, and Rabbi Gideon Estes, that is now the rabbi at Orami, where the Torah reside. And I was very fortunate to come and visit and hold this Torah, and her, and Perlmutter, Nancy Picus, many, many other people. I also met Janna Kaplan, she's part of this movie and also on this call. She worked at Brandeis University, and she really, when I met with her at Brandeis and she took me to her lab, she really made me think about the psychology of astronaut. And I started understanding that there's the really day-to-day, the human story behind being an astronaut. It's not just this fascinating thing that we see, that people go up and that's it, but the toll, what kind of personality they need to have. And I want to thank also Janna for that. And of course, so we had a production team thanks to Ken, and then with Rob Cooper. And then of course, movie like this cost money. And I don't know really how to raise funds, and I was very thankful that I have wonderful people that volunteer their time during this process. Ruth Gold, Caroline Keller, Danny Watt, Jen Schwartz, and recently Ron Zaguli from Shara Shalom. That they really mentor me, help me, supported to help to get this project up and get the funding. And of course, we have all of the people that supported and gave us money to make this film. Without you, we wouldn't be able to create this film. And I look forward to share this with you. And there are many, many people that helped us along the way with writing, with social media, my children, friend Lina, and other people that are on this call. You can see many of their names on in the movie and on our website. And I really want to thank everybody. And I want to also give a special thanks to my husband, Gil, that is also on this call, that when I came home after this inspiring day at Hebrew College, and I was thinking about how to get funded and how to start, and he said, let's just start doing it. And he was really, the first fund to the movie and also the support during this past 4.5 years and also going forward. And my daughters and my parents and my in-laws, they're all very much supporting financially, mentally through this journey. So I want to thank everybody. And we have many of our supporters I mentioned today. And I just want, before we continue, to share with you a little bit what's our next step, what are we thinking about the film. So now the film is done and we're going to share it with you. I already submitted it to 27 film festivals, and I hope that it will be seen around the world, and we will share with you whenever it's virtual, so you can maybe see it or recommend other people to see it. And another big piece will be to have an educational distribution. So the idea is to connect with school, Hillel, summer camp, synagogues, and other communities all over the world to have a screening in their own communities with some speakers. Again, the goal wasn't to make a film, the goal was to share the story and also to inspire other people about their journeys and about a Jewish journey as we grow up and we move forward. So I know it took more than the 5 minutes that I was planning, but there were so many people along the way that I wanted to thank, and I wanted to make sure that they get what they deserve. And if I forgot anyone, please, my apology. I'm going to, we do have everybody's name on our website and in the movie. And I mentioned earlier Susie and Mira and Lenny over our website and a few more. So thank you so much. And I now want to introduce Jeff, that without Jeff, as we spoke before, he did most of the work and now I had just to tell it. So I want to introduce Jeff to come and share a few words with us. Thank you.
Thanks, Rachel. Boy, when I first heard the idea of a movie premiere, I mean, movie premieres, you're supposed to come up to in a limousine and, wear your fancy clothes and everything. But then I thought, if this were being done somewhere, like even here in Boston in person, yeah, it would be a lot of fun. But most of you wouldn't be here. I mean, we have people from all over the world. It's really very, very special. So thank you all for coming. The story of how I got involved taking Jewish ceremonial objects into space, you're going to hear about in the film. So I'm not going to talk about that. But, most of you who do know me or have heard about me as a Jewish astronaut, you probably saw the dreidel in space, and unfortunately I can't spin it now like I did up there. That's what we call a 1G problem. But in any case, that broadcast got captured by a Jewish media outlet in Los Angeles, and it eventually ended up all over the world and on the net. So I was pretty familiar with media, and I had planned to take the Torah up into space and perform a little ceremony. And I asked one of my crewmates, Claude Nicollier, a Swiss astronaut, a very dear friend, if he would record the ceremony. And I thought, maybe someday we could do something like with that, like was done with the Space Hanukkah. But about that time, NASA gave me a really hard job assignment. They sent Barbara and me over to Paris for 4 years to represent NASA in Europe. And when I got back, basically nothing happened. And as Rachel said, I was busy. I mean, you know, I've been doing a lot of stuff here at MIT. And on a few occasions, I've talked to Jewish audiences, and I had shown the movie of the Torah ceremony a few times. Before tonight, I went back on my computer to the diary of the day that I went to the Hebrew College. It was an invitation for a lunch, and I was going to be kind of the luncheon speaker. And the notation in my diary said, Space Torah lunch. Little did I know that Rachel was going to be there. And boy, as I said, I've had a lot of experience with the media. So when Rachel asked me about doing a documentary, I get asked to do a lot of things by a lot of people. So that was the reason I said, yeah, if it can really be professional. And as I said, little did I know, because it's been a incredible experience with great thanks to Rob and his team. And of course, to Rachel, who was the powerhouse behind it, as well as the 3 rabbis who are here. You know, Arnold Stiebel, who was our first rabbi in Houston and sort of got this whole thing started, and Shaul Osadchey, who eventually got the Torah to us to take into space, and then Gideon Estes, who has been the custodian of the Space Torah. So thanks to everyone. Thanks to all of you for coming. And I think Rob has a few words to say before we actually premiere the film.
Thanks, Jeff. And while I'm just following you, thanks for being so accessible to us with your stories and your candor and your enthusiasm, and also all your wonderful visual materials that people will soon be able to see. I'm in a group called BAVUG, Boston Avid Users Group, Avid being an editing software we use that Ken Hausman also belongs to. He also knows my wife and partner Pam through a historical organization. And Ken says, so look, I've got this early childhood educator who's never made a film, who and has no money, who wants to make a film about an astronaut who took a Torah into space. And I said, well, I've got to see if this is for real. And Raquel's one of the most for real people I've ever known. I was thinking maybe Israeli chutzpah is redundant. I'm not sure, but I know that we called Raquel the Energizer Bunny. She just kept banging away until we got just enough money, with a lot of contributions from crew I'll mention later, so that we could bring this thing in. There were a series of connections, which I'll also get to later, about from Raquel to Ken to me to the really fabulous people who came to work on the film. And finally, I just, two short things. My credit is I think producer, writer, director, whatever. Somebody asked me about the writing credit, which is interesting because the total writing in this film is something like an aggregate 1 minute and 30 seconds to 2 minutes, which was done, recorded, narrated magnificently by Jill Jacobs, who I don't think is here. But the writing in this film is really started with the research that my wife, partner, associate producer, and our interviewer, Pam Cooper, did, in that when she interviewed Shaul and Jeff together, she knew exactly where to go, exactly where to lead them, exactly where you will see the spontaneity when they're together at the Museum of Science. And then when we interviewed Jeff separately, individually, and Janna, Pam did all the research to get all the right questions. When Jeff saw the film for the first time, the first person he gave credit to was Pam, for the job that she did in making them feel comfortable. And so the writing was really extracting their comments, and our documentary style is let the people tell their story as much as possible. And fortunately, Jeff and Shaul and Janna, for her part, were very good at telling it. And we'll talk about Billy Novick and the music later, but I think you will find moments in the film where you might feel the music touching you. And the final bit was Jeff is going to explain in the film why it was so important to videotape it. What we're doing tonight is an extension of that. And our challenge in making the film was to take that moment, that amazing moment when the Torah was being read from Bereshit while Jeff's going through the firmament, if you will, to take that moment and figure out how to make a film out of that, which we'll discuss later. So, oh, Jill's here, great. You will hear Jill's voice and see her likeness later if she's able to stick around. So I turn it back to you, executive producer.
Thank you so much, Rob, and thank you, Jeff. And I think that everybody is excited to watch the film. Are you guys?
I am.
So, as I shared before, all of you joined us. My vision from the beginning was to hold this maybe at the Museum of Science in Boston, where we did some of our recording. But of course, you know, the COVID came and things are changed. But as Jeff said, we are so thankful that we can have people from Israel and England, all over the country. So this is very exciting. So I'm going to share now in the chat a link, and you will see it's a Vimeo live link that you can just click on it, and it will take you to a screen where you can watch it on a different page. So you are still connected to our Zoom, if you, but you can still watch the movie on a different page. When you're done watching it, come in back to the Zoom. You can write your comments or be ready to share with us some of your thoughts. Thank you very much for watching. This is the
Raquel, it's
greetings and wonderful word, and it's great to hear your voices about what you just saw. So if anyone wants to share with us a few words, raise your hand, unmute yourself, and just share about some of your feeling and what come to mind.
Hello, Rahel.
Yes.
Hi, it's Melinda.
Hi, Melinda. I guess Melinda is... Leah, did you want to say something?
Yes. Jeff, thank you very much for sharing me. It's very, 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 very exciting to end the year with such story. I'm years and I'm following all your stories and everything and seeing it in live. It's really, really very exciting, and thank you very much. And hopefully we'll just continue seeing all kinds of stuff like this.
Thank you. Melinda, you're back. Do you want to say a few words or you're stuck?
Yes, we're all stuck in Zoom world at the moment. I'd just like to say thank you very much. It was an inspirational movie to watch, and I'm so excited to share it with our children at Jewish Milton Day School in Washington, D.C. We teach aerospace 16 weeks out of the school year full-time to second graders. And they are just going to be blown away when we can eventually, you know, share that. And thank you so much for all your hard work. Mazel tov. Congratulations.
Thank you, Melinda, for joining us. As I shared in the beginning, when I was sitting there, I was thinking about students like yours. And the goal moving forward is to write some curriculum to go with that, a student guide with additional funding as we move forward. To include more interviews that we have that we couldn't include in this film. So we are still, as I said, since I met Jeff, the sky is not the limit. we are still looking forward. So I'm very excited for the next phase of this work, now that the movie is complete, to work with all of the educational tool that we will develop with more funding that we are going to raise through programming. So please be in touch with us as we go through this phase. Anyone else want to share some words?
I'd just like to quickly congratulate Jeff. It's still available for 4 hours.
And you locked up in the middle of what you were saying, so I missed it.
I said, well, first I said, congratulations to you, Jeff. And I'm looking forward to seeing the movie, but I only just signed in. So I missed the directions for how to see the movie in the next 4 hours.
Rachel, over to you.
We will put the link again at the chat, so you can copy and paste it and you can use it later. And the only reason that we are limiting, we don't want it to become viral, because a film festival won't show it if it's viral and it's open on social media. So we want to limit it, the amount of time that people can view it. And Andrea just posted, yeah.
Is it the Vimeo address that was just posted by
yes,
Shapiro?
with the password Shalom, yes. Anyone else want to share a few words before we move to hear from our rabbis?
Hi, can you hear me now?
Yes.
Yes, okay, I'm from Hungary. I am an old friend of Jeff. Nobody knows the company, only Jeff maybe. We know each other more than 7 years. And it is so great to thank you again in video. When we started to write each other 60 years ago, we got our letters in 1 week and we wrote each other German. And now I see you and you see me, and it's so fantastic. It's so a different world. It's 3 o'clock in the night in Hungary now, but I'm so happy to be with you and with your company and to see everything what I saw in the last few minutes. And I have to tell you, if it's possible, I want to show this film for students. Can you hear me yet? Hello?
No, if you heard Mihai, you have to wait. It eventually, you have to wait until after the film has been shown in documentary festivals. Then it can be released to the public. Otherwise, they will not show it in the documentary. And I should say to the other people, if you're wondering who is that bearded fellow there talking to me, Mihai and I have been friends since we met in a cafe in Budapest in 1963. And we've written to one another and visited one another. And here we are all these years later. So Mihai, it's great to see you.
You want to add to this, Jeff, if people, one of the other, as I mentioned earlier, we are planning to have an educational distribution. So if a university or a class want to show it, like the school, like Milton or any other school, they can reach out to me. I can send email and we can coordinate a showing. Like I already have a lineup with one synagogue that wanted to show it, and then they bringing me as a speaker. So this we can do privately. So I'll send information later on. Okay, so let's move to the next part of our evening, and we have 3 rabbis that are very much involved in this journey of Jeff. The first one is Rabbi Arnold Stiebel, and maybe the second one is Rabbi Shaul Osadchey, and the third one is Rabbi Gideon Estes. So let's start with you, Rabbi Stiebel. Maybe you can share a few words with all of us.
It was absolutely marvelous to watch the movie because I had so much involvement with the Hoffman family in my years at Shar Shalom Synagogue in Houston. I have to correct something you said to me. It must have been exciting when I welcomed them to my congregation. It was the other way around. they were already active and involved at Shar Shalom when I came. They welcomed me and my family and made us feel very comfortable with it and very much at home when I became their rabbi. And for the 7 years I was in Houston, they were very close friends, good friends, and we certainly enjoyed their company. I had a chance to teach their children in bar mitzvah class, to officiate at Sam's bar mitzvah. Anyway, it was a wonderful experience for me. So the honor and pleasure is mine. So thank you, Jeff, for inviting me to be a part of this wonderful experience. So, and please say hello to Barbara. I know she's sitting by you. Judy is sitting by me too, right here. Thank you.
She says hello, and thank you again. Be well, Shana Tova.
Shana Tova. If
And
Barbara
this
would,
is,
if
yes,
Barbara would stick her head in, I'll let Judy stick her head in.
She won't do it.
Neither would Judy.
that's funny. So I want to, I recently connected with you, Rabbi Stiebel, and we recorded some of our conversation, and I look forward to add some of it also to our educational material, because there is so much more recording and so many more resources that we would like to add over time. That's the reason we called it the Space Torah project. It's not just a Space Torah movie, it's part of a bigger a project that we see influencing and inspiring many people for many years to come. So I want to invite now Rabbi Shaul Osadchey, that I was very fortunate to also meet here in Boston in my house, and we had a wonderful night of filming at the Museum of Science in Boston. So Rabbi Osadchey.
Pleasure, thank you. Truly, the movie that I had hoped would be produced. You know, when Jeff returned and the Torah had been brought back, there was a lot of initial publicity in a lot of different places. And there was even at the Rabbinical Assembly Convention here in Houston, one of the minyan services, we used that Torah during the morning minyan. So it's not that this is completely unknown, it just never had the vehicle by which people could really grasp the significance of what this experience was for Jeff and for the Jewish people. So this is really the culmination of that many years of trying to find that right vehicle, and I think this will capture the imagination of many, many people and inspire them with this story. The impetus for doing this was not as a novelty to take an object into space for the sake of having some value attached to this specific object and to enhance its value, but it really was an extension of sort of our sense that Judaism is a religion not only of the past and the present, but also it has its place for the future in shaping what generations to come will do and how they will live, and what a fitting symbol for that than the Torah. And so the challenge of getting the Torah into space, as Jeff noted, was finding the size, and we were able to do that by finding this miniature Torah. And it was important in doing so that it be a kosher Torah and that it be one that was usable. We wanted it to be functional, not simply something that would be put into a museum and looked at, but actually a living, breathing, embracing Torah. And so the fact that youth use it and it's used in the services, as Rabbi Estes will explain, I'm sure, in a few moments, is what we had in mind when we purchased that Torah and made this effort to have Jeff bring it into space. So the dreidel was a lot of fun. That was sort of more of again, an extension of a Jewish object, but the profound spiritual significance of that Torah going into space and being read over Jerusalem on Shabbat was truly awe-inspiring, and it reminds us that we as human beings and as Jews have the capacity to project ourselves, our dreams and aspirations into the future. And it really was just such a joy to work with Jeff on doing this, and his missions and his words are really an inspiration, and they tell the story so admirably, and those alone will, I think, inspire kids in particular for the future.
And I have to say that when going back to this meeting with Jeff, initially, when I heard him talking, and I heard about the role of his rabbi, the role of the educators, the role of the parents, that it takes a village, it takes a kehillah, it's a community. And this was also one of the messages that I wanted to make sure that we can get through. Like, even now that we are having the 3 rabbis, each one of you have a significant impact through this journey. So I want other rabbis around the world to think about what is their role with their community. The same thing with educators, like the 3rd grade educator that brought Jeff the book. What are other educators will do with children when they show interest in anything? And when I saw that Nancy Picos created the little pouch, it's like the members of our community. So all of this village, all of the kehillah that is part of that I thought it was very important. So I now want to invite Rabbi Gideon Estes, that I had the opportunity to meet twice already, once at the ISJL conference when I just started the project, and later on when I visited Orami and I held the Torah, and we opened it together to share with us a little bit about the work now and what's inspired you also, Rabbi Estes.
Oh, thank you. I'll wait for you to get the spotlight. Are you spotlighting?
Yeah, yes, you're
okay.
Good.
Okay, so there we go. Thank you very much for this opportunity. The film was great, and I think that it'll be a nice thing to continue for helping kind of give inspiration. And as Rabbi Osadchey said, that the goal of it to be a living Torah is fulfilled. Orami takes great pride in being the home of the Space Torah. Many kids for their bar bat mitzvah use it. It's a Torah that's light enough to be easily carried. We also use it along with our Holocaust scroll for Yizkor, for all the festivals of Yizkor, because in remembrance of the second Torah that went into space, that unfortunately those also aboard the Columbia, which did not return safely, unfortunately, and in their memory, we use the Space Torah to also remember them during Yizkor. The rimonim that you see in the film, those were added just before the 20th anniversary of the Space Torah flight by members of our congregation who gifted that to the synagogue. Elaine and Myron Hoffman, no relation to Dr. Hoffman, at least not that we know of, who were really inspired by it and wanting to help honor. And so they commissioned these bespoke rimonim to be like the shuttles, to really help show the special place that this Torah has for our congregation. Additionally, word has gotten out through the conservative movement. In this year's USCJ calendar, the month of March features pictures of the Space Torah, and also frequently when our regional USY, our youth group, has had conventions, regional conventions in Houston, the Space Torah has been used as the Torah from which the USYers get to read from, which has been a very powerful experience for them. When they were meeting down at Clear Lake with Shara Shalom, I actually drove the Torah down for them to be able to use it for their Kinusim. So it's used, it's loved, and we feel honored. It was great for me to get a chance to meet Dr. Hoffman when we honored him for marking the 20th anniversary of his space flight. And I think that I'm happy to report that the Space Torah really is continuing to live and be used, and it really is a treasured. It has a place right in the middle of our ark, and it's well respected and loved, and we do see it as this kind of continuation of really seeing about the universal values of Torah and the particular values. It's a very nice kind of symbol. And I think that its mission is being achieved.
Thank you so much. The three rabbis and we have other people, as I said, with this journey that are also on this call with us. I know that Ron Zaguli spoke in another another Zoom that we held, and Nancy Pike has said a few words. So they are with us, and we have other recording from a different Zoom meeting that you can hear other members talking about their own experience, and we are not going to get to it today. But one of the exciting piece also is the production team that actually put this movie together. As I mentioned, I didn't know much about film when I entered this journey, and I was very fortunate to have Rob Cooper as a guide, but as the expert in making educational documentaries. And he brought a wonderful team. And we wanted also to put them in the spotlight for you to meet some of them and to hear a little bit about the behind the scene work that's taking place to make such a movie. I will say that when I met Rob, he said to me, it's going to take about 2.5 years. And I said, why can it take only like 6 months? You know, why does it take so much? And he said to me, this is how it works. And we are 4.5 years after. There's so much research that went into it, so many conversation, some time of also like the fundraising, everything that came to place. And even when we ended the movie, it was pretty much very close to the end that I met Rabbi Arnold Stiebel. And then Jeff started to send more materials. And I said, okay, we need to cut. The rest will be in an extra page, more interviews, or if we get like, we decide like in a few years to make like a 1-hour movie, that will be a different project. But at the moment, we decided to go with the 25 minutes, that it will be very good also for educational setting, as I mentioned. So I want to introduce Rob, and Rob will introduce some of the team that thanks to them, we have this wonderful film. So Rob, please.
Thanks, Raquel. Thanks everybody whom I know and who I don't know for your comments about the film. It's tremendously gratifying, even if we can't be there to, actually watch it with you. It's really nice to hear. I actually just want to take my time to kind of go through and shout out to the people who made this happen, starting obviously with Raquel. And I just wanted to say that I don't know if I've ever trusted anyone so much in my life, but it was a real mutual relationship of trust in that we trusted. Pam and I met with Raquel like 4 years ago. We met for about 2 years before we really got something going, but we just had this feeling that Raquel was going to find a way to get the money that we had to have, thanks to so many of you, to make it happen. And she trusted us to make the movie. She trusted us that the money that she was raising was going to be used in a worthwhile way. And she made commentary and gave ideas, but she really left us alone to make our film with the people I'm about to list. And the first person that I want to list again is Pam. Oh yeah, the one thing I wanted to say about Raquel is that she kept stressing the need for community. And when we were trying to figure out how do you take this moment and make a film out of it, the first chapter was how did this Jewish kid from Long Island become an astronaut? And Raquel loved it that Jeff gave a shout out to his 3rd grade teacher. And then all the people at Shar HaShalom and then Orami that were part of the community that made this possible. And along the way, what a pleasure to meet Shaul. And Raquel was the driving force behind the film. Shaul was the driving force behind locating a Torah that could fit into the space shuttle. And one of my favorite images is a shot of Shaul holding the Torah scroll. It's like, I got it. That spoke to me in a lot of ways. It's an amazing honor and pleasure to have met and get to work with Jeff. I've got to say, you know, he's not only got all the scientific and other credentials that the person needs to be an astronaut, to be one of the 32 chosen out of 8,000 in the first place, but he's also the kind of guy that would meet a lifelong friend in a cafe in Budapest. I didn't know that story, but part of what made the film work were Jeff's enthusiasm, going all the way back to when he talks about the first time he saw the rings of Saturn. It's a rare interview when a person can access their feelings, and that really helped the show. So just briefly going through, and some of the people who are here we want to recognize, but I'm just going to kind of go through. There was definitely Bashert involved in how this film happened, to be able to achieve a film without, you know, a six-figure budget, to be able to try to get six-figure quality. We had some issues with audio early on. I contacted Greg McCleary, who is Heart Punch Studios, who does all the front lines and a lot of the PBS stuff, GBH stuff. And I only called him because I said, Greg, I've got an issue I need you to help me resolve. And he talked me down off the Mystic Bridge and said, it's okay, we can make it work. And he said, by the way, I'd really like to do the mix for this film. And I said, Greg, there's no way we could afford you, because this is the really high price spread. He said, I'll work it out. And he did it for an amazing price. Not too long after that, I met with Austin DeBesh, who many believe is the best videographer, director of photography in the area. And Austin said, I'm all over it. I want to see it. I want to be there. And he did location scouts without charging us. He poured himself into it. After we had the little private in-person premiere for the people who worked on it, Austin came up to Raquel and said, Austin, who is half Norwegian, said, I'm the waspiest person in the world, but I found it deeply moving and profound. So that was nice. Billy Novick is a pretty renowned composer and performer, and I just think as soon as Billy said he'd be part of this, and Austin said it, and Greg said it, I knew it was going to sound good, and I knew it was going to look good. And Billy, can you make yourself known? Do we need to unmute you? I'd just like to get a sense for Billy. There he is.
Sure.
You're not muted. Hi, Billy.
Hi, Rob. Great to be part of this. Jeff, a special hello to you. I've only seen you and heard your voice like 50,000 times. It's nice to meet you. So it's really funny. You're exactly like you are on film. Your voice is the same. So Rob, I've worked on maybe 10 projects with you, Rob, something like that. And they've always been fun, kind of really interesting, creative, and even if they're sort of more like commercial, they're always sort of like well done and sort of interesting. So Rob, a couple of years ago, asked me if I had any music lying around, which you're a composer, you write a lot.
Right, I forgot.
Right, and I know it was for, so I said, sure, send him some music. And 2 years later, it's like, remember that music you sent me? No. He said, well, I'm using it for a project I'm working on about Space Torah. And I have to say, I thought it was like a joke. I thought it was like a cartoon or something like that. Never heard of the Space Torah. I asked all my friends, I'm not that active in the Jewish community, but I asked all my friends, had they know about a Space Torah? No one knew about it. As I learned more about the story, it was obviously more even intrigued about it. And of course, being a Jewish kid who grew up on Long Island, I said, oh, that astronaut could be me if 1,000 things were different in my life. So Jeff, it's like you've done this for all the Jewish kids on Long Island who wanted to be astronauts growing up. Then of course, it was Rob just wanted to license the music at first. And I said, that's okay. Then Rob has a way of sort of really saying, well, you don't have to do this, but would you mind writing? We need like 30 seconds of something here. And so, if you really don't have to do it, it's like, okay, I'll do it. And a little bit after a little bit, and then the pandemic hit and I really sort of had nothing to do. Musicians didn't have any gigs or anything. So and about 20 more of those, do you mind? Like, you don't really have to do it, you know? So we're all perfectionists in there. We all want it to be as good as possible. I can say now, since I've been paid what I've been paid, the money really isn't what we do it for. You know, I think everyone realizes that. Just as you said with Austin, you do it because you're really interested in the topic. You know, Rob does great work on his documentaries and stuff. And it's kind of funny, the total turnaround of this whole thing is that I just realized this afternoon that the music, which I had labeled as yoga music for too long an explanation to give, was actually music I wrote for a dance called Streaming Shabbat. I do a lot of writing for dance and movies and stuff like that. And this is for dancer Joni Block. And obviously it was a Jewish themed dance, and Streaming Shabbat, is it like not perfect to be used for the Space Torah now?
Thanks, Billy. Actually, that piece, which I believe is called Intro Yoga to Birth,
yes,
or something like that, was the piece that he let us use gratis so we could make a trailer. And that became like the sort of theme song of the piece. And the other thing, just quickly, because I got to recognize other folks, and I got about 4 or 5 minutes left. The sort of Bashir, COVID was very kind to this project. It's not that there haven't been some positive things to come out of this terrible period. And one of the things was when Billy called me up in March and he said, "I'm bored, you know, give me some stuff to write." And so what happened was that instead of doing the music after the fine cut was complete, which would have been May, we did the music at the point of the rough cut. So actually Billy's music informed my editing tempo, which was marvelous. It just really showed me where to go. And Raquel has said many times, she gets misty every time she hears the Lador Vador when the kids are reading their Torah portions. And with Billy, you not only get a composer, but you get a world-class clarinetist. And one of these days I'll tell you the Benny Goodman joke. But anyway, I just had a great time working with you, Billy. Quickly, Shady Hartshorn is one of the premier editors around town, and we tried to get him to be the editor back last October, and he wasn't available, so he sent us to Ben Reichman. Ben, could you just wave and say 30 seconds of something and show us your beautiful child?
Sure. Yeah, I'm here with my wife Alyssa.
Hello.
And our daughter Aviva.
Can you see? I think she's out of frame. Hold on.
She's a little low in the frame here.
Here she is.
Anyway, I feel very lucky to be a part of this. I'm a child of the 80s, and so to me, the space shuttle was about the most exciting thing I could imagine outside of, you know, Transformers. And so to have a chance to work on something that had that and also had the Jewish dimension to it was really wonderful. So thanks a lot.
Thanks, Ben. Ben, if it wasn't clear, did all the wonderful illustrations, and some of that was my concept, some of it was his. But the best concept was his about the big Torah trying to bang its way into the little space in the shuttle and not making it, so it had to transform. Arnie, wave and say hello.
Hello. Hi. Hello.
Arnie promised me he'd give a wave, and so he's accommodated himself.
Also another Jewish boy from Long Island. I didn't know that was part
of the
requirements, but I filled it.
I guess you understand each other. Actually, Jeff, Billy, who's very sensitive to sound, obviously said that Jeff speaks in a new Long Island cadence. So I didn't know that was a thing before. He said that was in editing, we had to keep that in mind. So
hey guys,
Arnie
this is Jeff.
Actually was the editor.
Rob.
Sorry.
This is Jeff, and I have to interrupt. As much as I love and respect our friends from Long Island, I enjoy going out there to visit. I didn't grow up in Long Island.
Oh.
We did spend summers at my grandparents' place on Rockaway, but I was born in Brooklyn, lived in Manhattan for the first 6 years of my life, and then we moved up to Scarsdale, which is really where I grew up.
Scarsdale, well.
Well, the connection continues. I'm from Far Rockaway.
There we go. All right. I mean, I have great childhood memories of Playland, Rockaway Playland.
So,
okay, well,
so do I.
Glad we sort of resolved that. Anyway, Billy still thinks it's a Long Island cadence. Maybe it's not that different from a Scarsdale.
No hard feeling. No hard feeling.
No, we roll on accuracy or hope to. Anyway, Arnie was actually with the original Zoom. Before anybody else knew there was anything, a program called Zoom, there was a program on WGBH called Zoom. And Arnie was one of the main editors. And after Shady, the project went on long enough that Shady could come back to it. And after Shady and I shaped everything and got it together so it felt right, and Shady put in all those wonderful natural sound breaks, that sort of thing. We dumped it in Arnie's lap and told him to finish it up and polish it and make everything look beautiful. And he did. Heather, hello. Is Heather?
Yep. Hi, Rob. Hi, everyone.
Hi, Heather. So Heather is a researcher par excellence who picked up on all the work that Pam had done in the fall to lay down the groundwork for all of this stuff, and went out and got some of those specific images, like the beautiful images of the Earth at the end of the show, and some of the historical images that Pam hadn't got, of which there were a few, and particularly the footage of the car rolling into Houston, which was not so easy to get. So just want to say thanks, and I got to keep moving. But when Heather came on board, we had to get things a lot more organized because it was a demanding thing. Jill, can you say howdy? You still here? Okay.
Hi, I'm muted.
Oh, there she is.
Yep, I'm here.
Okay.
Hi, Jeff. It is a pleasure and an honor to meet you. I thoroughly enjoyed working on this. Thank you to Rob for being such a wonderful director and for getting me involved and working with me. I am from New York. I lived there 20 years, grew up in Connecticut, but lived in the city for 20 years, Jewish girl from New York, very, very involved and connected to the Jewish community here. And I just wanted to say again, the scene where there are children reading from the Torah just gets me every time. I just tear up, thinking about my own kids being B'nai Mitzvah. And thank you so much for sharing your Jewish journey with all of us. It's beautiful, it's wonderful. And the message is so important, taking Judaism into the future. So thank you so much for that.
Well, thanks, Jill. That is the message. And it was Shady and also Pam who said, this film needs a female narrator. So that was the first thing. And then we had a couple of weeks to try to find the person who had the right voice and the right feeling. And we found one who not only is observant, but actually is in a female Talmudic study group. So I figured that ought to do it. There wasn't much narration, but it had a really important function. And I believe I gave a shout out to everybody except to say, one night I'd been working from like 6 a.m. to 6 p.m. and Shady showed up like the cavalry, and that was when we really brought the thing together. Shady's on the vineyard right now and not engaging in this, but we really want to give. Oh, and there's one more person, Jim Papadopoulos. Please say howdy. Hey, there's Jim. Unmute yourself. I'll unmute you. There you go.
Yeah. Could I say a word?
Make it quick because I got to get back to Joe.
So I officially had the tiniest part in this amazing film, which was a thrill and also an honor. So I'm really glad you asked me, and thanks a lot. And I had a quick word for Professor Hoffman, which is this is a participation of course 2 in this adventure. Thanks.
So The question was, which is a variation on a joke that our son liked to tell when he was 4 years old. How do you make a Torah stand, or how do you make a mini Torah stand? And that was a real dilemma. And we consulted with Jeff, and we thought about 3D printing, and we had to make that Torah stand up, or that shot of the down from the Remanim at the right angle, and the stand had to be invisible. And finally, it was Jim's a friend, married to Leah, our friend, and I said, Jim said, make it out of wood. And I said, how? He said, I'll make it. So we went over to the Artisans Asylum and spent 3 or 4 hours to design the perfect Torah stand, and which Jim did gratis. It cost more to ship it, to get it to Houston in time than anything else. And the videographer in Houston, Eric Paul Sanchez, with the estimable help of Ann Perlmutter at Orami. I was here, they were there. It was a week before COVID happened. Orami is brilliantly lit with this round skylight in the sanctuary, and so we had to build a dark room and put the Torah on Jim's stand, and Eric did a beautiful job of that, and was referred by Stephanie Twyford. Thanks, Stephanie. Sorry, Raquel. Just wanted to get everybody in there.
I know it's very hard not to, this is like a big opportunity to say thank you for everyone. And I also want to say thank you to Meir Finkelstein, the cantor that allow us to use Le Dor Vador, the melody that he composed, that really tied the movie. That every time that I hear it, it's very moving with Billy playing with his clarinet. So thank you for that. If anyone has any questions that you want to ask, please use the chat to write your question, and maybe we can call upon few of them. I also want to, while you do that, I want to invite also Janna to say a few words, and we will try to answer a few questions, and then Jeff and I will close and say a few words before we say goodbye and send you for a wonderful new year. So Janna, you want to say a word?
Yes. Thank you, Rahel. Great film, Jeff. It was a privilege and an honor to work with you. I am originally from the Soviet Union. I came to this country as a refugee in 1981. Remember those days? So to me, the amazing thing was something that all of you kind of took for granted, that a Jewish astronaut was allowed to take a religious object into the space flight. In the Soviet Union, where I came from, you know, being Jewish in the space program was a kiss of death. It was a dead end. And so even people were hiding their Jewishness and trying to sneak in as, you know, Russians or any other nationality, ethnicity would be better. And so to really openly do it, and do it in a way that brought such meaning and such deep emotion to so many people all over the world. As a Jewish person, it's the fact that it was possible for it to happen, and that it didn't create, you know, firing of Jeff from NASA or any kind of horrible catastrophic event like the end of a career. No, it was an enrichment of your NASA astronaut profession. It was the enrichment of your career as a scientist. It would have been the opposite in a different country with a different political system and different program. So let's not lose sight of this achievement, that we are openly people who we are, and we are proud of it, we celebrate it, we integrate it into our jobs, into our work, into our passions, daily lives. This is not a given. It's not a granted thing. It's a result of a deep, profound process. And here we are. And the Torah is the living document. It is Ledor Vador. And so we are the generation who can actually celebrate it like Jeff did on behalf of all the Jewish people, on behalf of all the people who want a spiritual component to their lives. It's not a matter of faith, it's a matter of freedom and of being proud of who we are and where we live and where we came from and where we are going. Thank you.
Thank you, Janna. This is a beautiful way to move to some of our, the next part. And you're absolutely right, and you put it very nicely. Of course, it's a Jewish film, it's a Jewish story because we call it Space Torah, and it's about Torah, and it's a Jewish story. But there are so many aspects. I remember when Jeff said, we astronaut, human being, wherever we go, we take with us our tradition and culture. So in some way, I do hope that this will be a message for anyone around the world to know who they are, their heritage, take their pride with them wherever they go. So yes, it's a Jewish story, but it's American story. As you said, it's a story of freedom, of being who you are, taking it with pride to wherever you are, and feeling strongly about your heritage. And one of the things as an educator, I like to ask students or teachers, what will they take with you? Do they have enough connection to their heritage and to their story as a people? And I think that many times they don't. And this is where I find that educator, this is our role to make sure that we have a rich cultural and experiences of our people. So when we decide or where we go, it can be to Mars or it can be just to a different country. What are the things that we'll take with us? So thank you, Janna. You definitely helped me view things differently since I met you, and I appreciate for your perspective. If anyone have any questions.
Rachel, I need to just say one thing. First of all, hi Janna. I certainly enjoyed our conversations together. I should say, since you mentioned the problems that would face a Jewish cosmonaut back in the old days of the Soviet Union, but I think it is appropriate to mention a cosmonaut 10 years older than I, Boris Volynov, who actually made 2 space flights. It's not clear at the time whether he knew that he was officially Jewish, but it turns out, it was found out, I don't know the whole story, but his mother was Jewish, and he has since acknowledged his Jewish heritage, and as such, officially was the first Jewish person in space.
Well,
I don't think he would have been allowed to carry a Torah up on the Soyuz, but that's another story.
he got into the cosmonaut corps and into the space center as a Russian.
Right, exactly.
Only one Jewish parent, you are allowed at the time of the creation of your birth certificate, well, your parents are allowed to choose nationality, which is really ethnicity of one of the parents. And his father was Russian. The name Volynov is very Russian. And so that's what I meant by sneaking in, by hiding or obscuring the Jewish connection.
Yeah, exactly true. It's not clear that he really was aware of the whole heritage thing, but it is, I think, nice that he did acknowledge at the end. I think he's been invited and has traveled to Israel, and it ended up as a nice story, I think.
Absolutely, yes. But I remember when Judith Resnick first flew as an American astronaut, to me, that was an extraordinary experience because she didn't broadcast to the whole creation that she's Jewish, but with the name Judith Resnick, you know, we kind of recognized that she was, and I felt that it was, that's when the actual profound difference between the American space program and the Soviet space program just was undeniable to me, because they were all both very advanced programs technologically and scientifically, but the Russian one was close to the Jews. And, you know, for me, it was personal. I was a Jew. And I had no choice of choosing. You know, if I was a Jew through generations going back to, you know, biblical times. So I was able to become a space scientist in the United States, but not in the Soviet Union. This is a great country, people. It has its problems, but great achievements.
We have some questions in the chat box.
Yeah, Mara,
so Jeff.
Mara and then Dan. Yes, Mara, do you want to ask your question? Mara Gold?
Sure. Sorry, I'm kind of in the dark here, but I am just so fascinated and grateful to be part of this. So thank you to everyone. Jeff, I just wondered what the other astronauts that were on the missions with you, you mentioned a Swiss man and the others, what was their reaction to the Torah and the dreidel and the other Jewish activities?
Well, the dreidel, of course, that was done, we were all sort of around and everybody was awake. It was what we called a single shift flight. We were all awake at the same time. So most of the people saw what I was doing. That's why I was spinning it in the first place. We had a little bit of time off after all the hard work with the Hubble telescope. And, you know, we had about a half a day just as R&R before we had to pack up the shuttle and get ready to come home. So that's when I took the dreidel out and I was just showing it to my friends. And as I say, I didn't know the camera was on and the rest, well, that's how it all happened. But with the Torah, we actually were on a two-shift flight of 7 people. 4 of them were asleep at the time, which was good because I didn't want a lot of radio chatter. And so there were only 3 of us awake. One of them was downstairs doing whatever. And I asked my friend Claude to come up and record the ceremony. When it was, and so nobody else really was aware of what was going on. And when it was all finished, Claude said to me, Jeff, I have absolutely no idea what you were just doing there, but it looked very impressive. So again, little did he know. I've since told him what he was actually doing.
Need to send him the film.
Dan Harris, would you like to share your question?
Yeah, absolutely. I think first off, just want to say as both a young Jewish person and someone who is aspiring to create documentary films, I'm completely in awe with your story and just thank you for sharing it. I think I would love to know more. I think your connection between Tikkun Olam and your work as an astronaut is really beautiful and an incredible union of 2 parts of your life. And I would be curious to know, like, was there a specific moment where that sort of clicked for you, like out on a spacewalk or like, I don't know, I guess I was just curious about that. Or, yeah.
No, like I said, I mean, since I was 6 years old, I always thought it would be cool to go in space. It was just never a realistic career prospect until the shuttle came along. And I mean, I've been a lucky guy. You know, there wasn't supposed to be a spacewalk on my first flight. And we actually had been assigned, that was the 4th flight that I was assigned to. Our flights kept getting canceled and postponed and canceled. And so the 4th time, and then the satellite didn't work and they sent us outside and that certainly played a huge role in my career. So you never know. I mean, I was lucky. On the other hand, part of luck is being able to take advantage of situations when they present itself. And so a little bit of everything, but yeah, all worked out.
Thank you.
Do we have any more questions or should we move to some final words?
Hey, Jeff, it wasn't luck. It was skill and dedication on your part.
Well, as I say, if I had messed up the first spacewalk, I probably wouldn't have been up there fixing Hubble. That's true.
If you don't mind, Jeff, I don't know that I've ever told you, this is Ron Zaguli.
I recognize your voice, Ron.
I don't know if I've ever told you the story.
We should tell people Ron was an old colleague from NASA way back when.
Yeah, I would appreciate not the old part, but that's okay.
Well, I'm older than you, so anyway.
I started in mission control in 1983. My first flight was STS-7, which was the first flight of Sally Ride, the first American woman in space. And, you know, we've been talking also about Judy. Unlike you, Jeff, I think you know, she was not demonstratively Jewish. She didn't want, she did me the honor of flying something on one of her flights, but she wanted to make sure that it was not something religious. It was important to her that that aspect not be emphasized in her case. Unlike the approach that you took, but the story I wanted to tell was when I began in '83, I may have been one of the only Jewish flight controllers in mission control, but a couple of years into my experience there, they held a simulation on Yom Kippur. And I was assigned to the flight, and like anyone assigned to a flight, you take it very seriously. It's very important, your participation. So I did the simulation and then scheduled a meeting with Gene Kranz to talk about my religion and the fact that it was important, if there was a way in the future, to recognize the High Holy Days in the scheduling process for simulations. And I know I never had a chance to talk to you about this, but it was so impressively received by him. He recognized the importance, and that sensitivity was incorporated in the scheduling that the sim guys put together. So, you know, just a little backstory.
I've never heard that story, Ron. When did Jay Green show up in Mission Control?
Oh, gosh. Yeah.
He's a Jewish flight director.
Yeah, I don't. Well, you know, certainly Jay was there for the Apollo flights, of course.
Yeah.
So,
Jeff and Ron, I want to be just respectful of everybody's time. It's getting very late.
Yeah, we were just sitting here schmoozing. We should.
You should schmooze and get together. There's so much more, but I know it's a late night. We have some people, like Gary is here with us from England, 5 hours ahead. People from Israel. So this is a lot. I want to make sure that we do have an opportunity to close and say Shana Tova and thank everyone.
Before we say Shana Tova, if I can, Raquel, I forgot somebody.
Yes.
If you'll excuse me, yes, which is Susie Walsh, whom we spoke to briefly at the beginning. Susie Walsh and her daughter Mira run the Center for Independent Documentary. She's been with us for 4 years. That's who all of your contributions have gone to, and they take this little percentage out to take care of all of the accounting and paying people immediately and giving you all tax deductions. And it's because of Susie and Mira that the Boston's the Center for Documentaries and things like this can happen. And I don't know if there's time or not, but I would love it if Jeff could tell the story about when he let go of the shuttle and became a satellite. I'll leave that up to you two. That's one story I wish could have been in the film and it wouldn't fit.
It's getting late. That's going to have to wait for another time.
Fine. We'll do it some other time. It was a great story.
Jeff, do you want to say a few words before we send everybody to say goodnight wherever they are? And
I've been talking either live or on the film for 2 hours. I think everybody who's here and has hung on this far, thanks for your continued interest in what's been done here. It's been a great project for me to work on, and I'm truly happy that something that, you know, originally could have ended up staying on my computer is now something that hopefully can be shared and maybe inspire young kids. And of course, that's one of the things that the space program has always done, is serve as an inspiration, particularly to young kids. And so, you know, I see myself back in 3rd grade drawing those pictures of rockets and getting encouraged. So, you know, any 3rd grader who sees this movie and gets inspired, that's great. And we will have done our job. So Laila Tov, everyone, Shana Tova, and I'll turn it back to you, Rachel, to close up.
This time it will be from Boston and not from Space Shuttle Columbia.
So it goes.
in the end of the film. I want to thank again everyone that I mentioned, everyone that joined us tonight, everyone that will share this amazing story with other people. I'm very, very thankful again for the opportunity to help to tell this story and to share it and hopefully inspire you here on this premiere tonight, and everyone that will be engaged with this or will have the opportunity to watch it in the month and years to come. I did learn a lot from Jeff and about Astronaut, how we need to adapt to a new reality. You can't just light candles or just play dreidel as regularly or take a Torah. And I think even now with time of COVID, we are adapting constantly to new realities, something that Jeff and everybody that work on space do it regularly. So it's been very inspiring for me in this time, but in general. So I want to wish all of you a good night. Thank you again for coming. Thank for your support on whatever part you had in the making of the movie, or the part of making this celebration a very special celebration. So Laila Tov, and thank you. And you will have the link to see until 11 tonight. And if you have any questions, I will send a follow-up email so we can be in touch. So take care and thank you.
Thank you, Rachel.
Shana Tova and Baba.
Shana Tova.